Welcome to Cast Pulse, the weekly podcast from the Council for Agricultural Science and Technology. I'm your host, Carlos Beck Viana. This week, we have two conversations that I think you are really going to enjoy. First, I sit down with Jeremy Jack, a farmer from the Mississippi Delta and the newest member of CAST's Strategic Advisory Council. We talk about farming, technology, and what he hopes a National Academy of Agriculture could do for the industry. Then, I talk with Suraksha Baral. She's a Ph.D. student at The Ohio State University and the 2025 recipient of the CAST Science Communication Scholarship. She studies food waste and behavioral economics, and she has a very clear idea of why science communication matters. But first, a quick look of what CAST has been up to lately. Over the last 2 months, CAST hosted 5 webinars. We covered mental health in farming communities, we talked about invasive plants and wildfire risk, we had a session on soil fertility tools with Nutrien, we looked at policy pathways for diversifying the Corn Belt, and we explore how AI is changing in vitro biology research in a joint webinar with the Society for In Vitro Biology. If you miss any of those, the recordings are free and available on our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/castagscience. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future sessions. We also released 2 new publications, one on fire-adapted invasive plants and wildfire management, and one on agricultural diversification in the Corn Belt. Both are publicly available, free of charge. You can find them at cast-science.org/publications. And one more thing before we get started. CAST's 2025 World Cast Communication Award recipient Dr. David Ortega was recently featured on the Produce Moms podcast, episode 393. He talks about what is driving food prices today, from supply chain disruptions to trade policy and tariffs. It's a timely conversation. Search for the Produce Moms in your favorite podcast app. Speaking of the Cast Communication Award, nominations for the 2026 award are now open. If you know a scientist who communicates agricultural research in a way that truly reaches people, visit cast-science to learn more and submit a nomination. Now, let's get into our first conversation. Jeremy Jack grew up on a family farm in the Mississippi Delta. His parents immigrated from southern Ontario, Canada in the late 1970s. They were looking for land and opportunity, and they found it in Mississippi. Jeremy studied agricultural economics at Mississippi State University. He spent time working in Washington, D.C. on the 2008 Farm Bill. Then he went back to the farm, and he has been there ever since. Today, Silent Shade Planting Company is one of the largest family-owned farming operations in the Mississippi Delta. Jeremy runs the day-to-day with his wife and his sister. His mother is the chairman of the board. The next generation is already showing up. His niece is studying agricultural engineering in college right now. Earlier this month, Jeremy attended the first in-person meeting of CAST's Strategic Advisory Council in Washington, D.C. He is the newest member of the council, and he brings something that is not always in the room when people talk about agricultural policy: the perspective of someone who has been working the land his entire life. We talked about family, technology, the future of American agriculture, and what he hopes the Strategic Advisory Council will accomplish. Here is that conversation. So, can you talk a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where did you grow up?
Sure. So, I live in the Mississippi Delta, and I was actually born in Mississippi Delta. My parents, odd story, but my parents moved to Mississippi in the late 70s, early 80s. I'm the youngest of 3, and they moved here or actually immigrated here from Southern Ontario, Canada, which when you live an hour the other side of Detroit, that doesn't really seem like that's another country, but it is. And it's very similar to the Midwest, with a lot of the U.S. further north than where they were from. But so my brother and my sister and my parents were all Canadian. And when I was born here, I was actually still have a dual citizenship, which is nothing more than a interesting conversational piece. And over the years, it's funny, I was the only American in my family. Now I'm the only Canadian in my family, as they all became U.S. citizens over their lifetime. But yeah, so my parents grew up on farms in southern Ontario, both on my mother's side and my father's side. Uh, they did vegetables, they did feedlots, they did corn, soy, grains, and just kind of were looking for places to advance. It was a very urbanized area where they were having a hard time growing their operation. So they looked at the globe and they said, where can they find a friendly government, large tracts of land, great resources, and no issues with urban sprawl? And you end up in the Mississippi Delta. It was a, and it's been a great, I'm glad they made the move. I'll put it that way. I really enjoyed living here and growing up on the farm they moved to and still farm that same farm today. So it's a lot of fun being able to grow up in agriculture and throughout high school, playing sports and everything. And as I told you, my kids, when they were talking about something the other day, I was like, when we were growing up, we would go play sports, go to the fields, come back to play sports, go back out to the fields. And that was just, when you live that close to the farm and lived on it, you always were working and growing up. And I said, when we were younger, I can't say this correctly, we worked much harder than we do today, but we didn't achieve near as much. Technology has really advanced agriculture over my lifetime, and so went through all throughout college and went to Mississippi State University. I focused more into my focus was in ag economics, and then when I went back and got my master's degree, I I focused in ag policy, kind of ag business with a focus in ag policy. Uh, when I got out of college, I went to Washington, D.C., worked for a little while on the 2008 Farm Bill with Senator Cochran, where I actually met my wife. And at that point in time, I was trying to decide if I wanted to come back and farm or if I wanted to make a career working in Washington, D.C. And just kind of felt like I was being pulled back to the farm, and it was more of a place to raise a family and uh, which I didn't have at the time, but I knew one day I would, and I just kind of wanted to live that type of life and get out of the bigger city. So I moved back to the farm, uh, and then a couple of years later, my wife finished her education, and she moved. We got married, and uh, I'd say after that, the next interesting thing that I did was I went to the executive program for agriculture producers. Danny Kleinfelter put that together. It was a good friend and a good mentor of mine. Kind of helped me see farming and agriculture in a different way. And from there, came back after that full time at the operation, and we had some great growth. Uh, and since then, I'd say my parents have my my sister and my wife and I run the day-to-day operations of the farm. My mother is kind of is the chairman of the board. My father was the chairman, but he passed away a couple of years ago, and now my mother's taken over that role. And like I said, still very much a family operation, and we've got some really good long-term employees, and we've advanced the operation and vertically integrated it over our careers and lives, and to continue to grow and add things to the operation. So uh, it's a it's a lot of fun to get up to go to work every day. I'll put it that way, because you're always looking at what we can do better and what we can do be more efficient, and how technology has allowed us to do so much more. It seems like every year we get to do more with either less equipment or less people, and because of that, we're able to provide a better career and an easier job for the team that we have. So it's a very fulfilling job.
What's the best and the most challenging part of running a business with your family?
But I will say, when working with family, and I've worked with my family my whole life. So when I was, like I said, when I was younger, it was my brother, my sister, and I, and my parents, and my sister. She would run the water truck and the chemicals back to the cultivators back and forth every day, and my brother and I would work in the rice fields and do irrigation. And I mean, this is before any of us had driver's licenses. So we were all young working there, and then we got older. And so there's nothing on the farm none of us can't do, even though obviously we don't have those roles today. But I always say there's nothing more fulfilling. At the same time, there's nothing more challenging than working with your family. I saw it as a kid growing up. You know, you never really quote turn it off because you come back home and my parents over the dinner table we would talk about business. And now here, I have a 10-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter, and I guarantee you could give them this same interview and you get the same questions because over dinner time we're talking about business, or they're sitting in the car and we're having conversations about this, that, and the other, or they're being picked up from soccer practice and they're listening to conversations that we're having on the phone, and they're curious because they know they know there's this business is part of theirs and part of their lifestyle, and one day if they choose to do this, they'll have a background in it. So there's the challenging part is you never get to turn it off, and the rewarding part is you don't have to always turn it off. You don't. I say the rewarding part also to me is I get to work with people, especially family, and I can trust them. I get to work with them, and it's kind of I've got their back, they've got my back situation, uh, and the hard times together. If you go back and look at what we've been able to do by working together over the years, very very fulfilling. Uh, to have those we set those lofty goals, and then halfway through it, like what were we thinking, and then we look back and like wow, I can't believe we actually got that all done. But I know I wouldn't have been able to do that without the faith and trust of my family. And I'm very fortunate. Like I said, I work with my sister and my wife, and they're both way more smarter than I am, and they can easily tell me that I have no problem telling me that I'm wrong or I'm not doing a good job or any of those things. They keep me on my toes, which is like I said, there's no filter when your sister looks at you and be like, you got to do better. So, or you got to get this done. And that's that gets to be the fun part about it is working with family is very rewarding. But like I said, at the same time, when you go home at night and you've done something wrong or something's not right at work, there's no, oh, we'll turn it off, or I don't have to tell them about it. They already know what's going on. So it's a little bit of a catch-22, but it's very fulfilling when I get to either one of my nieces is with me and rides around the farm and asks questions, or my son or daughter gets in the truck with me and we go get on a piece of equipment and I let them drive for a little while, and you just see them light up in their eyes, and then they go tell their friends that they got to do this, got to do that, and like I said, they're younger, but it's a lot of fun. My niece, my sister's oldest, is actually in college right now, getting ready to graduate, and she's going into ag engineering, and she's seen some of the tech. She really is focusing on the ag tech side of things right now. So just to be able to have that conversation with her about what's going on in the farm and what we're seeing and what she's hearing about at college is that's look, obviously there's a balance sheet at the end of the year. There's an income statement. You want to make sure that all that's going well. But when you see another generation that has that in their soul and in their heart, it makes it all worth all the hard times worth it.
Can you give a few examples of how science and technology has been transforming your operation?
Sure. So I grew up, I guess you'd call it, in the revolution of precision ag. I remember when we first got our first computers on the farm. Uh, I was just getting to the age where I could understand how computers worked, and I remember we got our first auto steers. And my father was learning at the same time that I was learning with him, and I was able to show him and teach him, and he was able to show me. So he was able to buy it, and I was able to show him how it worked. But it was funny because it's like you talk about how the technology was back then, and it goes back to what I said. We used to work really hard and not accomplish a whole lot compared to where we are today. And I remember taking a process that would take 4 or 5 days. A good example, we use aerial imagery to on our cotton fields. to do our plant growth regulators on them. And we'd go up in a plant with an airplane, take an image of the field, they come back, process those images, scout them, and then make the prescriptions, put them into another plane, go fly. And we probably did a good job, but it was just kind of very clunky, and it would take 5 to 6 days. Well, now I can use satellite image. In 5 minutes, I can make the file, send it to the sprayer operator. He gets a push notification, and it takes off spraying. So it just you look at how far we've come with cloud-based technology uh, over the last 10 years or 15 years, how that's advanced what we're able to do. Now the information flows back and forth. So everything that is done on our farm, every piece of equipment is tracked. Every process that equipment is doing is being tracked. Fuel usage, the time, the elevation, the amount of product it's putting out, all that is automatically being recorded and put up into our what they call operation center. And we're able to make decisions instantly off of that. And now today we're taking that information and adding AI into it. So not only do we have the data quicker, we can analyze the data quicker, and we're able to make decisions quicker. So something that you would wait to the end of the year and just start flipping through maps and maybe exporting stuff into Excel and running different scenarios, you can do that on the go as we're going through the crop field. So it's like we'll go plant a couple of fields, analyze them, and then start making changes instantly to the rest of the field. So or the rest of the farm. So it's where we are from a technology standpoint. It's so much more advanced than where we were 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we thought we were really far advanced where we were the last 2 years. So the speed that we're changing is increasing quicker than it was in the past. So when it comes from a technology standpoint, I'm really excited about what we're going to be able to do because there's still what I want to call the muscle part of farming. They're still in the dirt. There's still grease. There's still diesel fuel. There's still just raw horsepower. But now that with the technology, we're able to find that and finesse everything that we're doing to make sure everything is just perfect across the operation, across multiple soil types, multiple crops, and we're able to do it in a very, I would say, easy point of view, but it's not near as hard as it used to be.
What are the biggest concerns and what makes you feel more optimistic about the future of American agriculture?
Right now you can kind of look at the prices of agriculture right now. It's a very tough time. There's no doubt about it. Our prices are what we're selling our products for are low, and we're in a hyperinflation time where inputs are really high, equipment is high, labor is high, and it just makes for a really tough time in agriculture. However, what I know is optimistic about it is we always need agriculture products to survive. The entire world does. And what we're able to do in America, or anywhere in the world, but especially in America where we live, is we're able to provide not only great quality, but a safe product. And now through the technology is we're able to provide all that, and we're able to show exactly what we're doing. So there's a whole clear path of where the product came from, the transparency that we have with our products is it's unbelievable how easy it is for me to prove to you or show you how the product is being processed, where the product is, where that product came from. So theoretically, I could, if this shirt came from my farm, the cotton that was in this shirt came from my farm, I could show you exactly what part of the field that cotton came from. And to be able to do that, to have that tracking, that transparency in American agriculture is very, to me, is very optimistic that we can provide a product that no one else can provide anywhere in the world, and we can do it safely. And it's one of the things that I always say. You look at rural populations are falling considerably, and the cities are getting bigger, and we're getting more and more generations away from the farm. But it doesn't matter who I bring to the farm, whether from any state in this country or any country in the world that do not have an agriculture background or are not necessarily pro agriculture or just are don't have a feeling for it one way or the other. 2 hours on the operation, maybe 3 hours off the operation, and I've been able to make someone an agriculture fan for life. And I don't think that I'm that good of a tour guide. I don't think that's a second life a career for me. I think it's just getting people on the farm and getting them to see how products are made or how the crops are grown and the processes is one of the best things that people that never set foot on a farm get to do. It's a very fulfilling job. It's a very fulfilling life that we get to live. But also, it doesn't matter if you're in the Mississippi Delta or if you're in the Midwest in Iowa or you're out west in the valleys. All parts of agriculture are very interesting, and I'm trying to say this correctly. The fulfilling part of it is getting, or the optimistic part of it is knowing what we can do going forward, as we can provide not only a product but a safe product. And what am I trying to say? I think as the technology allows, we'll be able to learn more about our processes. We'll be able to learn more about our products, and maybe from the stuff we grow, we'll be able to do more with it, whether it's provide even a safer or a more nutritious product going forward.
Who shaped how you think about farming? Was it your family, your time in college?
I would say my parents, especially my father and my grandfather's, really shaped wrapped my mindset around sustainability and conservation, and kind of our work ethic, how we provide, how we do the job correctly, how we don't question or work around any of our standards. We provide. You want to go to bed every night making sure that you've done the best you could, not only for that day's work but also for the future. And a good example, like I said, my father passed away a year ago, and he had a chunk of a piece of property that wasn't just set just right. And he worked with USDA on our equip project, and he set the farm up square where it collects all the water. All the water gets retained, used back for irrigation. Again, it's kind of closed loop system. But when he was going through it, he wanted to make sure every well was electric, every pipe was brand new, all the pads were big, and he would just sit there and go, like, make sure we do this right, make sure we do this right. All these things, wanted to make sure it was just perfect. Now, he did all this, and I'll say this, he wanted to make sure it was always perfect. And he never once got to see a crop harvested on that farm. But he wanted to make sure it was going to be perfect, not just for my lifetime, but whoever is farming next. For as long as he possibly could, he wanted to make sure it was right. And I remember him telling the story, my grandfather was in the mid-'80s, and got a new flooring put in his kitchen when he was so excited because it came with a 30-year warranty. I was like, well, that's optimism. And you go back to that. That's that mindset, is just make sure however you do something, you do it for the future. You don't necessarily do it for a return today. You do it for a return for someone who's going to be there in the future. And that was a big thing. And I would say out of college, Danny Kleinfelter from that was with Texas A&M, was a really big mentor of mine and helped me kind of shaped outside of my family and outside of my views. And then Mark Keenum, who's now the president of Mississippi State University, was who I worked with when I was on the Hill in D.C. And how those gentlemen, how they treated people, how they thought of things, how they were just tremendous leaders and tremendous. What am I trying to say? Not only are they great leaders, they were great at their job and the way they could see things, almost visionary, I would say, for lack of a better word. Uh, Really kind of opened my eyes of how what else you can do, and what they did in their careers. Kind of showed me that you can really pretty much do anything you want to if you really truly want to, through hard work and working with good people and treating people well. Those are the guys that are really outside of my family really kind of opened the doors for me.
What drew you to join the Strategic Advisory Council at this moment?
Well, it was um, an unbelievable opportunity to be able to work with the people in the room. And like I said earlier, it's not necessarily what you're looking at today, what you're going to get your return on instantly, but the work that the Strategic Advisory Council, I feel like, is going to have great long-term returns in agriculture. And if I'm going to build a career in an industry that I want the next generation to have an opportunity to work in, it's my duty, I would say, my responsibility to make sure that I've done everything I can to make sure that they're set up to go further. And working with uh, Cass and the Strategic Advisory Council on possibly what we can do going forward is what I felt like an opportunity in a lifetime to really work with those people in the room to see how we can shape agriculture going forward. I feel like the decisions that are being made by that council is going to be uh, life changing for some and really shaping how agriculture will be going forward. And that was just an opportunity that I couldn't turn down.
What do you hope this council actually accomplishes? What are your expectations?
The my expectation is to with the council and working with the group is to really decide how an academy of agriculture, what it would look like, and how it would fit in agriculture today, but also what can it what can it truly do, and how can it help advance agriculture for the future? And that's something that is it's two things. It's extremely exciting. It's an extremely big honor. At the same time, I'm like, what am I doing here? When you look around the room of all the smart people and you look at all their professions and what they've done over their careers, it's a really neat group that's been put together to try to help chart the course of where this thing can go. But as I look at the responsibility of sitting down and decide what an academy of science, I mean, an academy of uh, agriculture can do for my art, the industry that I get to work in every day is it's really exciting, and it's like I said, it's a big responsibility, but it looks to be something that's uh, something like I said, a lifetime, once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to work in with. And I'm like I said, just ready to get them in there and see what we can do.
What would a National Academy of Agriculture mean to a farmer in Mississippi, for example? What would a farmer like yourself expect from it?
When I think of how agriculture, sciences, or how education's being done in agriculture today, or research is being done, it's very fragmented. Each state has their land grant universities, and each state's doing uh, their own work, and there's maybe multiple sources of information being floated around, and some of it regional. So something works in Mississippi doesn't say it's going to work in Arizona the same way or in Minnesota the same way. So we do need that. However, if you have one part of the country is partisan to another part of the country, and then politics is getting and mixed in with science, then who's to say which one's right? So I think it's very important that if you had an Academy of Agriculture that kind of set the tone of what was the direction that we needed to be doing our research on, what were the direction that our education needed to be set, be a one stop for the legislator legislative branch to go to ask questions, or for the executive or the judicial. It can be a nonpartisan and uh, a place to collect information to steer, help them do their job. So on our farm in Mississippi, we're not getting, we're not having to work around a set of rules that are incorrect for another part of the country, if that makes sense. And at the same time, I talk about our operation, how we do so much more, so much less every day. And we used to work really hard and not accomplish much. I feel like right now, when it comes to research amongst all these universities and across all the private sector, how much work is being double, how much research is being double, triple done for no reason? Could there be a centralized hub for that? So I think that's going to be some of the things that we need to decide as we sit down and look at this: is what all can it do and what can it not do? How can it do it correctly to where we don't mess something good up, but we take what we have and we give it the direction it needs to be much more efficient than it does today.
That was Jeremy Jack, CEO of Silent Shade Planting Company and member of CAST's Strategic Advisory Council. Suraksha Baral grew up in a farm in Nepal. She saw food go to waste, rotten tomatoes, rotten potatoes, and she never forgot that. That frustration became the foundation of her research. Today, she is a Ph.D. student in agricultural, environmental, and development economics at The Ohio State University. Her work focuses on food waste, recycling behavior, and what it actually takes to change how people act, not just what they know. She's also the 2025 recipient of the CAS Science Communication Scholarship. The scholarship recognizes students who do strong research and who can explain that research clearly to people outside of academia. Suraksha does both. Can you talk a little bit about yourself, where you come from, what are your main interests, and why did you end up in agriculture?
I am Suraksha Baral. I am Ph.D. student in Agriculture, Environment and Development Economics at Ohio State University. My work basically focuses on behavioral intervention and basically focusing on circular economy, which includes food waste, composting, recycling, and also different environmental laws related to circular economy. So yeah, basically I work on uh, translating this complex research into practical insights that like individuals and communities can actually use it in their daily decisions. I am from Nepal, very eastern part of Nepal, and I grew up in farm. I always wondered why there was so much waste coming out of our farm, because there were rotten tomatoes in our storage, there were rotten potatoes in our storage. So that's why I wanted to study agriculture, and that's why I joined Bachelor of Science in Agriculture back in Nepal, and then I did my master's in University of Georgia in agriculture and applied economics, and I was very fortunate enough to be part of PhD program in Ohio State, because my interest was food waste, honestly, because like I did my research in my undergrad in waste as well, and how we can incorporate the waste and use waste to make compost by using vermicomposting. So I was very fortunate enough to be part of Dr. Brian Rowe's lab, and yeah, I'm just doing my part, my research under his guidance. So yeah, this is about me.
Can you talk a little bit more about your experiences in the project that you are a part of?
Yes, the project I'm working on right now is called Can Ferry program. It is not just a project; it is like a behavioral intervention that we are doing with 200 households in Columbus, and where we use like very simple visuals which I submitted in a cast as well, very simple visuals and also like very relatable messaging to explain how contamination and proper recycling works. And the main thing I learned from this project is that it showed me that even like very small changes in how information is given, is communicated, can make a very big difference in life. And we have like achieved a very good success in increasing the recycling rate as well.
Why does science communication matter?
Science communication is really, really important. I can see people getting confused on what to do on like how to not waste more food, but there is a willingness to not waste food, but there is a large gap, there is a confusion. For example, I can give the example on recycling as well. So people really, really want to recycle, but they don't know where the coffee mug goes, or where they don't know where the like the polythene from Walmart goes. So I think it's about making people understand in a very easy way. The science is easy and you can do it like this in your daily decisions. So I think it's just making easier for people, it's just understanding what people needs and delivering in a way that people understands it.
Looking ahead, what do you want to do after a PhD program? What are your dreams, goals, objectives?
Yeah, I think that it's a great question. Looking ahead, I think I want to deepen this connection between research, communication, and policy. A good research exists, but it does not always translate into policies or program, and it does not always translate into something that people can really engage with. And so in next phase of my work, I think I want to design and test communication strategies that actually change behavior at scale, because we can do it in a pilot, but it's very hard to do it in at scale. So I want to do that work, especially around food waste, sustainability, circular economy. That includes like working very closely with policymakers or local governments to make sure that the information is delivered and also support the real adoption. And yes, ultimately my goal is to create or like contribute to the system where research is not just like published and just like is just not a part of academia, but also actively shapes how people make decisions and how policies are implemented in everyday context.
Do you have any other messages you like to tell the cast audience, things that you feel important, key messages?
I think it's just I think more people should work in science communication. So while even designing the research as well, we as a like academia feel more people should be involved in science communication. We need to think about how it impacts real world. We need to first think about understand what really people want, what consumer wants, what farmer wants, and then think about the research questions, and then think about the policies as well, because policies are meant to benefit people. And also I think we need to listen to farmers problem, consumers problem first. We need to listen to them and then understand and then create this research or policy design so that it would benefit everyone around us. Yeah.
That was Suraksha Baral, 2025 CAS Science Communication Scholarship recipient and Ph.D. candidate at The Ohio State University. Applications for the 2026 CAS Communication Scholarship will be opening soon. That is it for this week's podcast. Thank you for listening.